Hey, thanks for joining me. So, ever since I was a kid, I've had a fascination and a real love for Barlow style pocket knives. I think most of my life I've had one around, and there's been times when I haven't, but it's been a style that I've returned to over and over again. And I don't have any real super collectible Barlow knives. I have a couple that are, kind of vintage, but I just really love the style. I like using them. I like, just the way they fit my hand, the way the size, fits in my pocket real nicely. So there's several things I like about it, but I want to talk a little bit about not the history of Barlow knives, because that's a pretty long subject. I will link an article in the description that I found online that's got a nice history of the Barlow knife. The Barlow knife actually, the history of it starts in the 1600s, which is pretty cool. So I want to show you some of those that I have, talk about why, what piqued my interest in them and why I keep using them. And so let's put these on the workbench and let's take a look. Yeah, here we go. Barlow pocket knives. Now, like I say, I've always had a fascination with Barlow knives, and ever since I was a kid, I've had that. So when I was a little kid, my dad had a friend that his name was George, and he was an interesting guy. He was a former Golden Gloves boxer, and just a really interesting guy. But he lived in an older house, and he spoke one day about he and some workers were taking apart a plaster and lath wall that had some damage, and they were going to replace that with sheetrock. And in the wall, they found what he said was an original Barlow knife, And as a kid, I'd read Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn, and I'd heard about the Barlow knife, and I'd seen him on the displays, at the stores, where they have knives displayed. And so I knew what a Barlow knife was, but this idea that this real Barlow that's, was just a genuine Barlow, which now I know is probably just a load of crap, because a real Barlow, like it came from 1670 or whatever from England, the original Barlow? No, probably not that. Was it a Russell Barlow? Maybe, but even those didn't say Barlow on them. Like this says Barlow on it. It's by no means an original Barlow. There was a Barlow brand knife at one point. And like I said, I found a really interesting article that goes through the history of Barlow knives, and I'll link it in the description, because it's a fascinating read if you want to know the history of Barlow knives. It goes into quite a bit of detail. But that kind of piqued, that incident kind of really piqued my interest. And so there was a grocery store near our home that was, it was within walking distance of our home. We walked there, rode our bicycles there all the time. It was called Rudy's Redbud, and it was just around a couple blocks away. And they had an Imperial knife display, one of those glass front displays with all kinds of knives in it. And so I bought, and this is not the original one, but I bought an Imperial Barlow like this. Back then they were a couple dollars. They weren't very expensive. And these are pretty cheap knives. The bolsters are sheet metal. You can see where the tabs of sheet metal wrap around here. The blades are carbon steel. Now this particular one, the one I bought, was made in Providence, Rhode Island. This particular one, I don't know if we can get it to focus this close, is actually made in Ireland. And I don't know if that shows up very well. But I found this at a flea market. It was really cheap. And so I think I paid like $3 or $4 for it. But, it was an Imperial, very similar to the one I had when I was a kid. And just had to buy it because it brings back memories. I don't know what happened to that original one. Like a lot of pocket knives I had when I was a kid, I probably lost it. But the Imperial Knife Company, at one time, they joined during World War II with the Ulster Knife Company, and for a time they were the largest knife manufacturer in the United States. And they made, pretty inexpensive knives. Like I say, the bolsters are sheet metal, the scales are plastic, blades carbon steel. I couldn't even vouch for how good a blade it is. They're not very smooth. This is pretty stiff. It's one that'll rip your fingernails off if you you know, try to open it much. I probably should oil it. Maybe that would help. I haven't done anything to it. But that was my first Barlow, was this Imperial. And the things that I like about the Barlow, the things that I really like about them, I like a two-blade Barlow. That's kind of my favorite thing. You've got the pin blade, and you've got the clip point blade. There are some Barlows that have a single blade and sometimes a spear point blade. But Barlows all share this large bolster and the teardrop shape, this, you know, tapered shape. Good ones will have bone scales and good quality steel. And the design, I don't know, it fits well in my hand. It's comfortable. It's big enough to hold and not, you know, lose your grip on it. If you find a good one, the blade quality, you know, there's a lot of them that are good enough to hold a good edge. And there's a lot of manufacturers that make them. Obviously, I'm not a real collector of Barlow knives. I have just happened upon a few. So for a long time, I didn't have a Barlow. I mean, I had this thing, but I really wasn't going to carry it. And I only had, well, I didn't have any. And I wanted a Barlow. I wanted something with good steel. And I found this one. And this, you know, this is a Boker Plus. So it is one of the Chinese-made Bokers. But the steel is 440C, which, I know there was a time 440C was actually considered a premium steel. And you can see it's on the blade there. 440C was considered, you know, a really good knife steel. It was very popular. The thing I like about 440C is, of course, it's stainless steel, so it doesn't rust. And I know you can make stainless steel rust, but by and large, it's pretty free from that. It holds a good edge. It's not difficult to sharpen. And this knife from Boker, you know, I would love it if it was made in Germany, but I know if it was made in Germany, it wouldn't have been $39. It would have been probably $139. But it's just beautifully made, really nicely made, good walk and talk on it, good quality steel. I bought it from, it was Blade HQ, I think I bought it from. But this is one I bought a few years ago because I just didn't have a Barlow around, hadn't had one for a while. I mean, other than, you know, this one. And I just wanted one I could carry and use every day, and this has been a really great knife. Recently, I decided I wanted something in carbon steel. And as much as I really enjoy this one from Western Cutlery, I don't really carry it that much because, you know, frankly, stainless steel is just a lot easier to take care of. But I found this on eBay. It was pretty inexpensive. It had some rust on it. There's another video I did about cleaning up this knife, and it talks about how to choose or how to buy used pocket knives. I'll link that video as well. But this is Western Cutlery. Western Cutlery is a really good brand if you're looking for a used knife, and if you're looking online like eBay or wherever, and you run across something made by Western Cutlery, it's going to be good quality. At one point, the Platt family, which started Western Cutlery, and the Case family were related. There was a time when there was one factory that made Platt knives and Case knives, and one of the Case sons would go out and sell knives stamped with Case. One of the Platt sons would go out and sell knives, you know, same knife, but it's stamped with the Platt name, and they were coming out of the same factory. Eventually, the elder, the owner of the Platt side of things, his health deteriorated. He had to move to Colorado to get to drier air. And so he started Western Cutlery. But if you run across Western Cutlery knives, they're every bit the quality of a Case, in my opinion. And they don't have the collector following that Case does. And obviously they're no longer in business. But if you run across Western Cutlery knives, they are just really beautifully made. And so from time to time, I carry this. Like in the summertime, it's dry right now. I know it's not going to rain on me. You know, if I don't really envision the tasks that I'm performing getting things wet, I'll often carry this. I do like the stainless steel just because I don't have to worry about it so much. But this last one I bought recently, and I did a video about Craftsman knives, and this is a Craftsman, probably made by Schrade. It's very nicely made. The scales are plastic, they're imitation bone. The bolsters are nice and heavy, probably nickel silver. And it says Craftsman Old Crafty on it instead of Barlow. But, you know, if you're looking for a good using Barlow knife, the Craftsman knives, like I say, are typically made by Schrade. There's some made by some other companies, depending on the age. But the quality of them is quite good. And I paid $5 for this at a antique flea market. Guy had a whole bunch of Craftsman knives, and some of them were in nearly new condition. And you know, I don't know, this will probably go to one of my grandsons or something, because I can give him a good quality pocket knife, not worry too much about it if he loses it. I'll probably gift it to somebody, but if you're looking for an inexpensive knife, the Craftsman knives are good value. Anyway, so that's kind of my story of Barlow knives. I love the shape. I love the feel of them. I like the two blade design. You know, the pin blade and the clip point blade. I like the design. It fits well on my hand, and it brings back memories of that friend of my dad and talking to him. And you know, when you get a couple of guys together and you're a kid, you know, and your dad and some other guys together, and they talk about all kinds of stories. And I know my dad was good at embellishing stories, and his friends were too. And so some of these stories, you know, got pretty blown out of proportion. But they were fun to listen to as a kid, and, you know, the awe of, you know, I remember as a kid thinking, well, maybe someday I'll find a real Barlow knife. Yeah, that's probably not going to happen. But, you know, the interesting thing is Barlow, the style has been around. Like I say, the original Barlow knives made in Sheffield, England, I believe in 1670. They were started importing them in the United States. George Washington was known to have a Barlow knife. Of course, the books, you know, Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn, you know, really brought those to a popularity. And then, you know, just a very usable, clean design that fits in your pocket. It's just kind of hard to beat. Anyway, that's my kind of Barlow story, kind of why I like them. And, you know, if I run across a Barlow knife that's a good deal and it's a good quality one, you know, I'll snag it up. I bought this one, like I say, just because it brought some childhood memories. I think I couldn't tell you how many different Imperial or Colonial knives when I was a kid, because they were affordable. But anyway, that's my love for Barlow knives. I think they're just fantastic. Well, there you go. That's why I like Barlow pocket knives. That's where my fascination with them came from. You know, I think everybody has kind of a history of certain things that they like, certain knives that they like, and why they like them. And for me, the Barlow knife has just kind of was a part of my childhood, and just something I really enjoy having and using. Well, if you have any thoughts or comments, please don't hesitate to leave me a comment. Always appreciate it when you watch my videos. If you would, please click on the like and subscribe buttons. And as always, thanks for watching.